our video on partitive proportions today. And partitive, here's the word part. There's that key word when we're doing these. So we're going to do ratios based on parts, like you're dividing up something, and you want to know what each ratio represents. So let's just go right to it so you understand. All right, let's say we have a nursery, a tree nursery somewhere. And at this nursery, it has 420 acres of land. And here's the ratios of what they're planting. They have apple trees, pear trees, and cherry trees in this ratio. They're dividing the land up in this ratio. All right, so we want to find out what does the apple trees represent, how many acres of apple trees, how many apples, how many acres of pears, or apples, you can say apples, why not, and how many acres of cherries. So all you have to do is, and sometimes you can look at this and figure this out. With all types of math, you can do a lot of mental math and figure this out. But with a formula, all you have to do is just use an x. We'll say 2x. X is going to represent our acre. You could have used a. Plus 4x plus 6x is going to equal 420. So just set it up like that. Just set up the formula. Again, the x represents each acre. And if we add all these terms together, remember you can combine like terms. So we have 2, 4, and 6. So we have 12x equals 420. Now, if you're not familiar with combining like terms, you should look at the combining like terms video. But for your purposes today, if they have the same x here, all x's, you can combine the x's. Now we have some algebra here. Just divide out the 12 on both sides. Right? Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. Now x is alone. And so you have 420 divided by 12. All right, so we know that x equals 35. So each part of the ratio is 35. But apples have 2. So how many acres of apple trees are there? All right, so we'll look this up. Let's use a different color. Use a different color. There's 2 parts of the apples. So that's going to be 70. All right. There we go, 70, because 35 times 2 is 70. And you just multiply each part for the rest. All right, so what would the pears be? All right, and so the pears would be 140. All right, so we have 70, 140. And what about the cherries? What do you think? And then for the cherries, we'll have 210, as we should actually get a better marker than that. So again, 210, 140, and 70 have to equal 420, or else we miscalculated. So if you add this up, 210 plus 140 plus 70 is 420. So that's how we do partitive proportions. All right, let's do another one. Take this one out of the way. All right, so here is, we have a library. It has 1,300 books, and they will give away the books to 3 private schools. School A, School B, School C. Okay, and here's the ratios. So see if you can do this one. We have the ratios, we have the amount of books. So again, we're doing partitive proportions here. We know the parts, but what does each part represent? So see if you know how many books each school will get. A little bit over there. There we go. All right, so we have, again, we're going to use X or B. Let's use B, why not? 3B plus 8B plus 2B, or not to be, right? And they all have to equal 1,300. Doesn't matter the variable, right? And we just add all, again, we have like terms here, so we have 8, 2, and 3, and we have 13B, added them up, and they equal 1,300. Divide out the 13 on each side. Slow down so you see it. All right, and now B's left alone. What do you think B represents? B represents 1 part. What do you think? 100, right? So we have our 100 here. Okay, so we go back and we look. Well, we had 3 parts for the school. So that's going to be 300. So we just put 300 now. Of course, B will be 800. And that'll be 200. And of course, we add all these up and we get 1,300. Let's do another one. All right. So here we have Bill, Maggie, and Gina, and they sent a shipment and it costs that much to ship. Must be very heavy, right? And here's all the parts of what it weighed. So Bill's part weighed 11.8. We'll say pounds, doesn't matter. Kilograms. Maggie's weighed 22.3 pounds. And Gina's weighed 5.9. And they put it all in one box. So how much should each pay? If they want to do this fairly, right, you're basing it on the weight, right? So again, we have our parts, our ratios, and then we have our cost. So what would you do here? All right. So again, we have we can put 11.8. Let's bring this up. We have 11.8, and we can use X. We'll use X, why not? And then we have 22.3, and we have 5.9X. There's all our X's. And all this has to equal 196.4. So we can combine like terms. What do we get? So if you add all this together, you'll get 40. So it'll be 40x equals 196.4. Again, we do our algebra. Try to get the x alone. All right, and what do you think x equals? So we bring it up again. Right? And if you divide this, you'll get 4.91. That's what each part represents. So what would Bill pay, right here? What would Maggie pay, and what would Gina pay? So basically, we're saying it's $4.91 a pound. So Bill would roughly pay $57.94 if we're going to round it. So we'll just say 57.94. That's what he's paying. Right? Maggie, of course, with hers, if we round it, we have to round this. It'll be 109.5, let's say. We're rounding this, getting close to it. Right? And Gina, the last part, will be roughly about 28.97. That's how much they're each going to pay. So if we added them all together, we'll get $196.41. So we're off by a penny because we rounded. But generally, this is the idea. Now let's do one more. What if we already had the amounts, the measurements, but we're looking for the ratios now? Let's try that. All right, so let me draw one. Let's say, we have a field, of a farm over here. And let's say we have our corn, growing corn today in the field. And let's say over here they're growing wheat. And over here, let's say, well, why not, soybeans, something, right? And we don't know the ratios, but we do know that the farm is 672 acres, right? So 672. And then we have, let's say that corn, over here has 56 acres. Let's say wheat has 336 acres. And soybeans, if we add all this together, we'll say, well, it has to be, we can't just say, 280. So if we add all this together, we'll get 672. Now, how are we going to find the ratios? So we want to know the ratios of corn, wheat, and soybean. What is the ratio? So what you want to find when you're doing this is you want to find the greatest common factor. So that's where the greatest common factor comes in. That's another reason why you should know the greatest common factor, which you would have learned in 6th grade. So if you look at all these numbers, well, you can see 56 is the greatest common factor. So 56 goes into 280 and 336, and it's the greatest common factor. But let's say you didn't know that. So let me do it over here. So let's say you had, we'll just put all the numbers together. 336, doesn't matter how it's 280, we'll put it like this. You can do the division ladder method, which you probably have learned. And you can say, well, obviously we know the greatest common factor is 56. But let's say you didn't. You can say, well, let's just start with 2. And if you start with 2, 2 goes into 56 28 times. 2 goes into 336 168 times. And 2 goes into 280 140 times. Right? And we can keep making our division ladder. And we can use a 2 again, right? 2 goes into 28 14 times. If you're unfamiliar with the division ladder method, there is a video on division ladder method. Again, 2 went into 56 28 times, 2 went to 336 168 times, and 2 went into 280 140 times. Then I found another number. 2 goes into all these numbers, so we're using 2 again. And you can use a higher number if you see a higher number. We're just showing you an example. So here we got 84. Here we got 70. We make another ladder. And we can do it again. We can do another 2. And we'll get 7 over there. We'll get 42 over here. We'll get 35. Now, what number goes into all these? Well, 7 does. Right? 7 goes in once, 6 times, and 5 times. So now we're done because there are no numbers here besides 1 that all 3 go into. So we're just using these numbers on the outside. And if you multiply them, 7 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 56. So we know that and we knew right away from the start that it was anyway. So 56 is corn. So since corn will have a ratio of 1, it's going to have a ratio of 1. And then soybeans, if we divided 280 by 56, we'll get 5. So the soybean ratio would be 5. And 336 divided by 56 gives us a number of 6. So that's our ratios. And we set it as corn, wheat, and soybeans, so it would be 165. And be written like 165. All right, that's partitive proportions. Great job.